So if the guys are coming to watch me play, I don't want to miss that opportunity. Now, physically, if I can't do it, then I can't do it. But physically, if I can do it, and I just don't feel like doing it, that's a whole different lens.
It might not be in the team's best interest, in your best interest, to play all 82. Is that something you've thought about at all since you made the goal?
I mean, that's a goal, but yeah, we'll see.
The next day,
I'm available to go and be in the pro. If OBJ shows up, he might score 100.
You know, I need to get out there and show what I'm capable of. I want to play. I want to win. I want to make an impact.
And it's just basketball. At the end of the day, it's just basketball.
Hello? You play to win the game. You don't play to just play it.
When it comes to the past decade of NBA basketball, and especially the 2020s, it's been a time dominated by the players, run by the players. Looking at Adam Silver, he's downright spineless and inept at his job, and problems that used to be fringe problems, very, very minor problems, have now ballooned into the NBA's biggest problem. You know, the fans are there to watch me play. I want to impress that guy way up on top who probably worked his ass off to get a ticket or to get the money to buy the ticket. Do you really care about the guy who sat in the top deck at the Palace in Auburn Hills to watch you when you came to Detroit? Yeah, because I know he's probably yelling at me. I want to shut him up. I used to always think that it might be that kid's or that person's only opportunity to see me play. Kobe didn't want to disappoint his fans, especially the ones in the 300 sections that saved up to watch him play. I remember asking him why he couldn't just sit a game out because he was hurting. He said, "What about the fans that saved up to watch me play just once?" He never forgot about his fans. For guys like Kobe, Jordan, and Iverson, they weren't just great NBA players or cultural icons. They were guys who understood a very simple fact. The fans and the sport matter a ton. That, back in the day, was common sense. Nowadays, saying the fans matter is important enough to get a side eye from a ton of NBA superstars. In their era, their belief system is pretty simple. It's them, the commissioner, and then the fans, in that order. That's not right. No, it isn't. The NBA right now is a billion-dollar business. The reason why it's so successful isn't because of the guys who are currently playing. Why it's so successful is that the guys who came before them had a standard, league-wide, of playing games and playing hard. And of course, looking at those eras, the one thing that was always valued was the fans' dollar and the fans' opinion on the product on the floor. To anyone who pays attention right now, the NBA is in a very tough spot, in a relevant era. So, ask the question, how do you get out of that rut and restore the standard? Well, look at someone like Michael Jordan. This guy's interviews on NBC, while short, make a big-time impact. And when Michael Jordan says something, people do listen. As great as guys like Charles Barkley or Iverson, even Magic Johnson, those guys are in the public spotlight pretty often. They give interviews regularly. Someone like Jordan, he rarely ever talks. And now, being on NBC, him speaking off more often should put tons of pressure on these players to uphold the standard and restore the NBA's greatness. You know, I need to get out there and show what I'm capable of. I want to play. I want to win. I want to make an impact. And I twisted my ankle. I taped it up and I went back out and I played. You know, and I felt that. I always felt that. And in all honesty, I wish I could take a magic pill, put on shorts, and go out and play the game of basketball today. Because that's who I am. That type of competition, that type of competitiveness is what I live for, and I miss it. So, stopping Jordan right there very quickly. Again, this guy's appearances on NBC are very, very short and concise, but there are gems hidden within them. And looking at those first two segments, the underlying theme of the first episode was you play for the love of the game. You don't play for money. The second episode's theme was basketball is important. The fans are important. Those two underlying points right there are why basketball in the 80s and 90s was so prosperous. When Michael Jordan speaks those common truths, things everyone already knows, who he's talking to isn't guys like Kawhi Leonard, LeBron James, or James Harden. That era is already too far gone. They've done their damage. Who Michael Jordan is talking to isn't just younger NBA fans, but younger NBA stars. Guys like Wembanyama, Paolo Banchero. The next guy's up in the 2030s era. You know, it's all about winning championships and winning. You know, the stats that matter to me are the games that we win and the rings that you collect. Oh, it ate at him bad that he didn't win that national title against Magic. That was something that just burned him. When he won that championship, I was pissed. I wanted one. How disappointed are you? Well, you know I just hate losing. You know it's a tough loss. How much harder will you work this off-season now to get back to the championship? I pushed myself to exhaustion. Now, that right, there was 3 NBA legends, Magic, Bird, and Kobe, all top 10 players, icons of the game. But looking at those players, Kobe played in one era, Magic and Bird in the other. What was the underlying theme? When these guys lost, they were heartbroken, and it didn't matter. And, of course, when they won, that was everything. Even though Kobe didn't play in Magic and Bird's era, he was drafted in '97. That old attitude, that mentality, carried over into his era. And looking at the bridge of those 2 eras, it was undoubtedly Michael Jordan. So, looking at those guys in order, Bird, Magic, Jordan, then Kobe, that era, to a lot of NBA fans, is the golden era of NBA basketball. It is not the current era and the 2010s. Now, speaking of the 2010s, one year I point to as the death of the NBA was actually in 2016. Looking at that season, Kobe Bryant retired, Tim Duncan retired, and then Kevin Garnett also retired. Looking at those guys right there, all drafted from the 90s, their primes in the 2000s and the 2010s, they were sent packing. If you want to pinpoint the exact year the old school NBA died, honestly, I think it's 2016. I suit up every night, banged up, hurt, whatever. 100%, 30%, you ain't got no numbers. It's my heart, and you can't measure that. What's driving you? You play hard. You always play hard. And I'm losing. I'm losing. For someone like Kevin Garnett, the vast majority of his career was played in Minnesota with very little teammate help and inept management. But despite that, Kevin Garnett was a competitor who always knew winning was the end goal. And of course, when he won, he was over the moon. For someone like Garnett in Minnesota and Boston, this guy was so invested in basketball, so invested in winning, he would have played for nothing. Looking at a lot of the players of the 2010s, can you say that about them? That they'd play for no salary, just for the love of the game? A lot of those guys only play for money, only play for the fame. And of course, winning is downplayed constantly. And I am at a point in my career now where I don't lose sleep over that. Like, how did me and Luka lose? And it's just basketball at the end of the day. It's just basketball. For someone like LeBron James, the quote-unquote face of the 2010s and the face of the 2020s, having that attitude and mentality was cancerous to his entire era. And looking at LeBron's comments, it's like a kid in middle school who loses a game, walks off the court and says, I wasn't trying. Who cares who won the game? LeBron's overall mindset is the mindset of a toddler and a middle schooler. And of course, when he wins, winning all of a sudden does matter. When he loses, not losing sleep, it's just basketball, let's move on. Why is ring culture so much more prevalent in the NBA than in other sports? Laughter? I wish we had a simple answer. I understand the rules. Like, Charles is great, Karl Malone is great, Patrick Ewing is great. They're not at the table with Magic, Bird, LeBron, and Kobe. There are levels to this, and I ain't mad at that. I understand that. Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why it's discussed so much in our sport, and why it's the be-all and end-all. For a lot of the players in the 1990s who didn't win championships, guys like Charles Barkley and Patrick Ewing, despite not winning championships, they knew winning always mattered, and in the end, their legacy would be judged very harshly for not winning. Those guys understood that as a part of the deal of being a superstar player, and just because you don't win doesn't mean winning doesn't matter. In LeBron's era, what's the one thing he's done over and over again? Downplay winning and the importance of competition. In Michael Jordan's era, the prosperous 90s, the value of winning and competing was at an all-time high. And think about this. If you're a superstar player, a megastar, the face of your franchise, and you say winning doesn't matter, the fans who watch you play are going to be inclined not to watch. Because, of course, this guy doesn't value winning. It's his stats. It's all good. I'll check out. I still got paid. I'm averaging a triple-double in the finals. I'm pretty good, I would think. Because at the end of the day, all the people that were rooting for me to fail, at the end of the day, they have to wake up tomorrow and have the same life that they had before they woke up today. But it turns out he's a real douche. The importance of someone like Jordan being involved in the NBA goes beyond his skill set, talent, and even his championships. As Michael Jordan faced the NBA, he understood some very common truths about the fans and the importance of playing. In LeBron's era, all those standards and expectations have been torn down and stomped on. And of course, in LeBron's era, winning does not matter, loyalty is BS, and the fans are irrelevant. For the root of the NBA's problems in the 2010s and 2020s, it boils down to those 3 points. And looking at LeBron for his overall legacy, that's what he's left. You are the chosen one. Bring balance to the force, not leave it in darkness. So, that right there is the end of the video. And I'll say one last thing. Can Michael Jordan on NBC, quote-unquote, save the 2020s? I don't think so. But what Jordan can do is save the 2030s, the next era of NBA superstars. And of course, looking at Jordan when he speaks